Hi guys, Brain here, and welcome to a little bit of a different commentary video today. Today, we're going to be talking about a tweet that was made by a Fog Whisperer that I find very, very interesting because it kind of tackles this idea that people don't have a right to complain because they don't have certain expertise involved with Dead by Daylight and making games in general. But as somebody who has previously taught economics, I have been a history teacher, a social studies teacher, so I have taught many different subjects, one of that being economics. There's actually an economic concept for this that kind of completely disproves this feeling or this sentiment that a lot of people have, because it's not just this person, it's many people feel that if you do not have that personal expertise in a field, you are not, ergo, not allowed to complain about it. But there is a economic concept that actually exists for this that actually explains this all away. So let's go ahead and start breaking this down. So what is the bad take from a Fog Whisperer? So the bad take is from Dylan KG, and Dylan KG says that fix your game said the player who knows nothing about coding a game, thus having not the faintest idea on the implementation of a solution. So obviously the implication being said here is because you do not know how to code and make games yourself, you are not allowed to take issue or dissatisfaction with Dead by Daylight for the most part being an incredibly buggy game. I mean, just the other day, I was playing Twins, which is infamously one of the more buggy characters in the game, and I had somebody use an exploit on purpose on me on how he has issues, kind of like Victor has issues pouncing upstairs, and often he'll just kind of like jump and get stuck in place, and literally used it to win the chase and then kicked my Victor, and I had to start the chase all over again. That's just one example. This game is full of bugs, and you can see that every single time they put in through a patch that there's the list of known bugs and fixed bugs is incredibly long, especially compared to a lot of games in the market. It's a very big spaghetti game. But what Dylan is implying here, or outright saying, is that unless you have personal expertise in the field of making video games, that it's not really your place to whine or complain or be dissatisfied with the game of Dead by Daylight. Now, he adds something, an addendum onto this, because some people throw some really good analogies here at them. Like, somebody mentioned that, oh, well, my car broke down and I take it to a car shop, right? Because I'm not a mechanic, I don't know how to fix the car myself. But if they take forever fixing it, and then when I drive it home, it's still broken, I'm allowed to be dissatisfied and mad at the mechanic shop because clearly they didn't do a good job. So Dylan's retort to that is, FYI, comparing games to a physical product is automatically not a great comparison. Mechanics have been mechanics for years, and the cars they fix have manuals on how to fix them. A tire is a tire is a tire. Changing a tire doesn't break the taillight or cause an oil leak. Game devs aren't so lucky. Adding things and fixing other things can ruin older code. What code interacts with other code? Why did the smash hit cause the pallet stuns to flop? It is inventing and implementing non-existent solutions over and over when old stuff breaks. Now, all this is theoretically neither here or there. It doesn't really matter, the kind of the addendum that was tacked onto this, that, oh, well, comparing it to real life objects doesn't matter because there's an economic principle that goes with having any sort of business, which is called, just very shortly, customer satisfaction, or abbreviated to CSAT. So if you don't know what the general concept of customer satisfaction is the measure of how well a company's products, services, or overall customer experience meet a customer's expectations. It reflects your business's health. It's a key thing there. It reflects your business's health by showing how well your products or services are actually resonating with your buyers. Customer satisfaction is more of like a measuring stick that is used to measure not only aspects of like how well is my product doing, but also the service that you're providing and the reflection of the people that are making the service and how well the system behind putting out the service is doing. It is intrinsic to every aspect of your business from the top to the bottom. And a lot of people just kind of like, shoo away customer satisfaction as something kind of more on the side, erring on the side of like customer service, where, people are calling, they're wanting reparations for bad things that happen, how fast they fix that. But it really does expand to all aspects of business. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things these important things that I keep mentioning, and why customer satisfaction is super important, and why ultimately you don't need to have any sort of horse in this race. You don't need to have any sort of expertise in this genre of whatever service that is being offered to you. And customer service is just kind of like, or customer satisfaction is just kind of like intrinsically important. So one of the best things about customer satisfaction is that it drives customer loyalty. Obviously in video games, this ends up at a certain point being people like whales, but that's a whole other topic. But the double-edged sword here is a customer that is loyal will tell other people to buy the game. I enjoy Dead by Daylight. I love this game. I want to have all my friends playing it. So when my friends ask me on like a Friday night, what game are we playing? I'll tell them, hey, we should get Dead by Daylight together. With a different game, I recently did this. The Forest, which I played on my Twitch channel. Very, very lovely game. Top 10 games I've ever played ever. It's a survival game. Very, very fun. I'm very, very satisfied. I have customer loyalty to the devs of The Forest because I think they did a really, really good job on that game, and I love it. So when we were talking with some of my friends off stream, I was like, hey, we should play a game together. I recommended them to get The Forest, and they got a purchase of The Forest from one of my friends because I love that game. I have customer loyalty to that brand, so I recommended someone else to buy the game, and they did, which is really, really good for them because they have a sequel coming out pretty soon here, actually. I forget the actual date. They have a sequel coming out pretty soon. So, yeah. That is a perfect example of customer loyalty. They have me as a loyal customer to their brand because the products they put out satisfied me, and any issues I've had have been like readily taken care of. Now, the double-edged sword to this is that what I just did there when it comes to customer loyalty is actually pretty rare in the grand scheme of things. It is way, way, way more likely that somebody who is an unhappy customer who had a negative experience is more likely to tell others about that negative experience than somebody sharing a happy one. So a lot of people that are just kind of like passively, satisfied don't really think to go leave a review, right? But when you get angry, when you get upset, you definitely want to leave that negative review on whatever, whether that be like a restaurant or whether that be like, a Steam game. Like, you're way, way more likely to leave that negative review, which ergo drives people away from your game. I think a perfect example of this was the PC drop of Callisto Protocol, which was infamously like very, very, very broken. That was a very, very broken and terrible port. And there was the Steam page was filled from the top to bottom with negative reviews. So me included and a lot of other people didn't end up buying the game because I logged onto the page and I just saw nothing but negative reviews all the way down the line. And when you see this, whether that be on the Steam page, on Twitter, a lot of it's on Twitter, you see people constantly dragging DBD through the mud for its buggy mess of a game and how much that it's either A, unfun from a balance perspective, or B, actually buggy, like as was pointed out at the beginning of this tweet. That drives away people. People see that, and then people don't want to get into the game because like they want to have value bang for their buck and not necessarily waste the money on something that would be frustrating to deal with because the game is very, very buggy and unfun at certain points. Now, this is a big thing, this next part we're going to talk about. This is a big thing, especially in the DBD side of things, is often customer satisfaction and how customers self-report on their experience and how much they enjoy your product or service is a direct reflection of the team's performance behind the scenes. So in this case, this would be Behavior Interactive. If it not only does it matter that you're trying to reduce the amount of like errors or problems and make the people that are buying your product happy, but it's also important the way that your team handles it. And I think there are a lot of good. Now, I won't say that Behavior just does a bad job about this. There's plenty of really, really positive forum posts that they make, trying to keep people in the loop, trying to explain their mindset behind things. We covered one of that like 2 weeks ago, talking about how we don't know when Swifts are together, where Peanuts had a really, really good response to that. But there's also a lot of situations where, we also have people like Patrick saying that like, well, DBD's just like hockey and really off the wall crazy stuff like that. That's like bad, right? A company's efficiency when it comes to diffusing or handling problems with their service is almost as important as the initial purchase itself. And this is honestly not even just a behavior problem, but this is where a lot of like, video game companies that aren't the best kind of fall by the wayside, is that this whole response to customer dissatisfaction is equally important and often isn't treated as so. Obviously, you see this a lot in the DBD community, and kind of like in the tweet that we said at the top, is that often the response is that if you're upset, it's your fault. It's some sort of like emotional malregulation on your part. You're the problem here, and it's not really something that it's not something on our fault. It's just that our community is just whiny, or our community is just very volatile, or like essentially they blame it on something else, or they try to push it off onto something else. And or, like in the tweet saying, it's like, well, you just don't know how to fix these things, so you have no right to complain about them. And when your response is just kind of like waving the blame and kind of just, I don't know, like maybe it's just on you. that's not good customer service. It's just flat out not. If any other company, I'm not saying like, you know, bow to every whining Karen that you ever come across, but like if your inherent response to problems and friction with people that are receiving your product and service is, oh, well, I guess that's just how you are then, and you shouldn't whine. That's gonna drive a negative experience, which, like we talked about before, driving a negative experience for your customers means that they're not going to recommend your product or service to other people. So it's just as important and reflective how you handle dissatisfaction, just as much as actually making or putting out a good product is actually giving that good, like handling dissatisfaction in a helpful and good way that actually turns them around and turns it into a positive experience. And lastly, the last thing I'm going to cover here is this one should be a little bit more, this one should be a little bit more obvious. But obviously, if a customer is satisfied, they're going to make repeat purchases. That's just a thing that they're going to do. If they're happy and they're comfy, they're going to continue to buy things. Like DBD has a very, very large and expansive cosmetic store. I know people that just even outside of like the cosmetics that don't buy every single DLC. But I know people on the flip side as well that don't content create that are very satisfied with DBD, and what they do is they end up buying every single DLC that comes out. Instead, most people I know skip one or two. Most people kind of go, well, I didn't really see any perks or anything with that character I want, or I didn't really enjoy that killer's power, so I'm just gonna not buy that. But there are people who are very, very, very strongly loyal to behavior in their game of Dead by Daylight, that they do buy every single chapter and they do buy a lot of the cosmetics. So just think of like if we handled this from a different perspective of not just you're not allowed to complain, but they actually, you know, tried to put forward more of an effort to try and maintain a good customer satisfaction. The amount of more loyal customers they would have with that were buying every DLC, that are buying more of their cosmetics from the store. Like this is a very, very important aspect, and not just this, but any business, is that somebody like, here's the deal. This is a example that I used to use when I actually taught, was that some people will have a coffee shop at the end of their street. And I actually, ironically enough, I did in the last place I lived. But some people have a coffee shop at the end of their street, but they will skip that coffee shop, go drive farther to some place that they feel loyal to, that they feel cares about them. People will avoid something that is more convenient so they can go a place where they feel like they're cared for more. And this is the concept of customer loyalty, is that those people would rather have a more special experience that feels like the company and the business actually cares about them, even if it is a longer distance to get there, over something close and convenient that kind of shows that maybe they don't care as much. Maybe the service isn't as good. Maybe the product isn't as good. But they will actually go out of their way to find the more specialized experience. And I know this is already a really long video, but I kind of want to like just summarize why this is important and kind of talk about very briefly why we need to pay attention to customer satisfaction, and maybe not just say, well, if you have no expertise in this, you have no reason to complain about it. So customer satisfaction is kind of in a weird place, because customer satisfaction usually has some sort of rooting in preventing people from going to a competitor, which DBD doesn't really have a very strong competitor. You know, VHS has gone by the wayside. We have Texas Chainsaw coming out, but that's not coming out for a while. There hasn't really been a place to flock to as an alternative, so that probably is one of the reasons that their customer satisfaction is perhaps not as important to them, because they don't have that fear of people leaving for a brand competitor, because that's one of the big aspects of customer satisfaction, is to prevent people from leaving for a brand competitor. Now, in any business or product or service, the idea is that you're trying to fix what is often called pain points, trying to smooth over the rocky patches of the relationship that you have with your customers. So this is supposed to not only improve the product, but improve the experience, and obviously try to inject some of that loyalty. And this last thing that I want to cover here with this is that it's to monitor and improve brand reputation. It's about brand reputation. Because I think DBD, no matter who you ask, positively or negatively, does not have a tremendously positive brand reputation. Even if you love this game, you know it's a buggy game. Even if you care about this game, you know it's a mess. And I think that's something that's not good for brand reputation, that regardless of a positive or negative outlook on the video game, that it is well known to be a mess. It is well known to have bugs and well known to not be very well balanced or have a lot of mechanical issues. Like, this is something that is consistently known across positive and negative takes about the game, is that it is a mess. So that is not a positive brand reputation, which, factors back into what we said before, that affects how likely that is that product or service is to be recommended to someone else if the brand reputation is inherently not positive. But yeah, I know that may not have been as interesting. I know we talked about a lot of like very, very hard economic stuff. But that's, I taught this stuff. And when I read this Twitter post talking about how you had to be an insider in the business to like have the right to complain about the product or service you're receiving, it's just not true. I see this take not only from like Fog Whispers, but I see this take from a lot of people. That is, if you're not an insider in the business, you don't have a right to complain, which is not true, because this is a literal economic, this is a literal economic concept of customer satisfaction that's very important, that most businesses use with their product or service to try and evaluate and always improve it. And I don't get where people get this idea that you don't have the right to complain, because honestly, it just doesn't make sense to me, because that relationship between a customer and the business that it's interacting with has always been super important, and not just in like, video games, but just in business in general. And many companies have gone by the wayside because they don't value customer satisfaction enough. Now imagine if every company just kind of said, oh, well, you don't make video games, so screw you. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know where people get this sentiment. It's just it's just inherently wrong. It's just not correct at all. So I would recommend that they look into, stuff like customer satisfaction to see how they are off the mark. So yeah. Yeah, that's the end of this one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this a little bit interesting. But other than that, could be it for today's video, friends. But I do upload daily, so I will see you tomorrow. But if I don't, well, I'll see you when I see you. Bye.